Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. Good evening and welcome to the Doc Watkins Show, everybody. I'm your host, Doc Watkins, and I'm joined by Mike Porter on the upright bass and Brandon Guerra on the drums. Our special guests tonight are vocalist Jonathan Card and New York City restaurant and jazz club owner, Mr. Tommy Tardie. We're looking forward to the show ahead. We've got some great tunes ahead for y'all. We're going to get to the music in just a minute, but first let's take a look at the Jazz Texas News. After its initial public offering last week, Warner Records stock rose 10%, despite the fact that worldwide record sales have never been lower. A Warner representative says now that things are looking up, they're excited to expand their business to 8-track players, Laserdiscs, and VCRs. The NBA has tentatively approved plans to resume the regular season by playing all games inside the sports complex at Walt Disney World. Although the games will be played with no crowds in attendance, Disney World has promised all NBA players it will continue its park tradition of making them wait in line an hour and a half to order food. In related news, Major League Baseball is planning to restart its regular season by converting horse race tracks into baseball fields, as this will allow players much quicker access to steroids. The Houston Astros are hoping to play all their regular season games at West Park Community Recycling Center in order to allow its starting lineup easy access to trash cans so they can continue stealing signs. According to online records, an Oklahoma man accused of animal cruelty towards birds has been dismissed on grounds that detectives entered his home without a search warrant. Apparently, police were first alerted to the problem when one of the birds began angrily tweeting. When reached for comment, one of the birds who was rescued by authorities said, "Polly want a cracker," and an out-of-court settlement. If you or one of your loved ones is a bird who's been mistreated, please contact Jim Adler, the Texas Hammer. He stands tough for all birds and carries a big, big hammer. Call 777-HAMMER. Bring it on. It's hammer time. And finally, Joe Exotic, the imprisoned Tiger King star, has written a letter begging Kim Kardashian to get him out of prison. In response, Ms. Kardashian has agreed to help and recently organized a superstar A-list celebrity jailbreak team, including Dennis Rodman and Paris Hilton. Well, that's it for the Jazz Texas News. And now to the music. We're going to start tonight's program with an old blues tune called Night Train. Here goes. 1, 2, 1, 2. That's Brandon Guerra on the drums, Mike Porter on the bass. That's an old blues tune called Night Train. Thank you very much, everybody. We want to give a huge shout out to our man behind the cameras running all the video production, Mr. Chris Zients.
Science!
He's with Wizard Broadcasting. Thank you very much, everybody. We'd like to do a tune now by special request. This one goes out to Charles on his birthday, his 66th birthday. Happy birthday, Charles. This is a beautiful tune for you called A Nightingale Sang in Berkeley Square. Here goes. Thank you very much, everybody. That's a Nightingale sang in Berkeley Square. We'd like to give a huge shout out to our good friends over at Alamo Music for donating this wonderful Kawai, brand new Kawai grand piano. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Kevin and Adriana, for supporting us and helping out a local jazz club and some local musicians. We love you guys over at Alamo Music. Thank you, guys. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, my first special guest this evening is a vocalist, architect, and native Texan who moved to San Antonio over 20 years ago. He has a new book out called How I Turned $1 Million in Real Estate into $10,000 in Cash. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Jonathan Card.
Hey, Doc.
Hey.
Let me tell you about a gal I know. She's my baby and she lives next door. Every morning when the sun comes up, she brings me coffee in my favorite cup. That's why I know, Lord, I know. Hallelujah, I just love her so. When I'm in trouble and I got no friends, I know she'll be with me down to the end. Everybody asks me, how do you know? I smile at them and say, she told me so. That's why I know, Lord, I know. Hallelujah, I just love her so. Now when I call her on the telephone and I tell her that I'm all alone, by the time I count from 1 to 4, I hear her on my door every evening when the sun goes down and there ain't nobody hanging round. She kisses me and she holds me tight. She tells me, darling, everything's all right. That's why I know, Lord, I know. Hallelujah, I just love her so. Yeah. That's Doc Watkins, everybody. Now when I call her on the telephone and I tell her that I'm all alone, by the time I count from 1 to 4, I hear her on my door every evening when the sun goes down and there ain't nobody hanging around. She kisses me and she holds me tight. She tells me, Jono, everything's all right. That's why I know, Lord, I know. Hallelujah, I just love her so. That's why I know, Lord, I know. Hallelujah, I just love her so. Oh, yeah.
That's Hallelujah, I Love Her So. That's an old Ray Charles tune, and we're happy to have special guest Jonathan Card, a very good friend of mine. We've been friends for a number of years, and he just had a birthday just on Friday night. So happy birthday, Jonathan.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Glad to be here. So good to be down here.
It's great to, man, if you don't know this, if you don't know Jonathan, and in our history together as friends, we've not only been making music together for a number of years, but Jonathan is also a professional architect on top of being a wonderful jazz vocalist, and he is the one who designed Jazz Texas. And so we spent a number of years talking about design and talking about what a jazz club would look like down here, and he helped it all come together. And we're going to interview Tommy Tardie from New York City in just a little bit, who's a friend of ours who's actually never met Jonathan, but the two of them have a lot in common, and Jonathan has been to Tommy's places, and we're going to find a little bit out more about that. But we'd like to do a little more music for you first. Let's do another Ray Charles tune. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do it.
And this one's called You Don't Know Me. Here goes.
You give your hand to me, and then you say hello, and I can hardly speak. My heart is beating so, and anyone can tell. You think you know me well, but you don't know me. No, you don't know the one who dreams of you at night and longs to kiss your lips and longs to hold you tight. Oh, I am just a friend, that's all I've ever been, 'cause you don't know me. I never knew the art of making love, though my heart aches with love for you. Afraid and shy, I let my chance go by, the chance that you might love me too. You give your hand to me, and then you say goodbye. I watch you walk away beside that lucky guy. Oh, you will never know the one who loves you so well. You don't know me. That's all right, y'all. Y'all can clap at home. That's Doc Watkins. I never knew the art of making love, though my heart aches with love for you. Afraid and shy, I let my chance go by, the chance that you might love me too. You give your hand to me, and then you say goodbye. I watch you walk away beside that lucky guy. Oh, you will never know this one who loves you so. You don't know me. Oh, I am just a friend, that's all I I've ever been, 'cause you don't know me. Oh no.
That's Jonathan Card on the microphone, everybody, singing a little Ray Charles for everybody. Jonathan will be back in just a little bit, so stick around. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Jonathan. We're gonna do a tune for you now that we just wrote a couple days ago. We wrote a couple new songs for you tonight for the show, and we hope you all enjoy this next one. It's got a little bit of gospel feel to it. We haven't named it yet, so we'd like to know what y'all think we should call this one. But we hope you enjoy it. It goes like this. Here goes. Thank you very much, everybody. Mike Porter on the bass, Brandon Guerra on the drums. That's a brand new song for y'all. We hope you enjoyed it. Ladies and gentlemen, our next special guest tonight is New York City restaurant and jazz club owner and the founder of the Goodnight Group, We're so incredibly honored to have him tonight on the show tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Tommy Tardie. How you doing, Tommy?
I'm doing great, Doc. How you doing?
I'm doing swell. I'm so happy to see you, and thank you so much for coming on the show tonight.
My pleasure. What a great way to spend an evening. Great music.
The pleasure is ours. For those of you who haven't met Tommy, Tommy and I met officially just last January. I've been stalking you, Tommy, over like the last 7 or 8 years, though, but you didn't know it until this January. But you own two fantastic clubs in New York City. One's called the Flatiron Room, and one is called Fine and Rare. And when Jonathan and I, before we designed Jazz Texas, we came out to New York to check out clubs. And we went all over the country. We went to San Francisco, into Los Angeles, into Chicago, into New York, looking for great jazz clubs that we wanted to get inspiration from. And we found a lot of inspiration at the Flatiron Room, and that's how I became to know of you. And then we got to know each other back in January. And Tommy, it's just an honor to have you on the show. I would love to know what inspired you when you came up with the idea of the Flatiron Room and the design and the decor.
Yeah, well, before I got into this business, I used to, I owned a couple nightclubs, and nightclubs just wasn't really my scene. I did it for a while, had some fun, and I just I lost touch with the demographic. And, like with nightclubs, you're always chasing cool. You're always looking for whatever's on trend. And as I got older, I knew I loved hospitality, but I said, if I'm going to stay in hospitality, it's got to be doing something I enjoy doing. And it's got to be, and rather than try to tap into, a 20-year-old's mindset, I said, I'm going to put myself as a demographic, and I'm going to design a space that I want to go to. And I got to believe that there's enough people out there that kind of represents what I look for into a place. And I just kind of let the cards ride. I wanted something that I find that as people mature, when they go out, they want to, they still want to be entertained, but they want to have a conversation. They want to be able to talk. They don't want to go into a place that it's so loud that you can't hear yourself think. And also, I knew a lot of the younger audience places were packed to the point that you couldn't even move around. And I knew that the demo myself that wanted to go out didn't want to be in that type of an environment. So, so when it came to designing it, I thought of I want to design something that I'd want to go to. I want something that is not going to feel like that it has to keep up with the trends. I want something that's almost going to age better with time. Something that feels like it had been there forever. Go ahead.
One of my favorite chefs of all time said that the truest chef is the one that makes the food that he would want to eat.
Yeah.
And it sounds such a simple, obvious concept, but it's so amazing how often we design things or we create things that we think other people will want, but we wouldn't want ourselves, but we just assume that's where the market is.
Yeah.
It happens all the time.
Yeah, it took so much pressure off when I put myself in the driver's seat, because I didn't have to go into a focus group. I didn't have to, tap into other people and say, what do you think? I just said, is this a place that I'd want to go to? And, unfortunately with New York, there's so much inspiration around. I had a good friend that was playing jazz at a few friends that were playing jazz at the Plaza Hotel. And I remember going up there, and it was just, at the time I was in nightclubs, and it was just a different vibe altogether. And I would go to the Plaza Hotel, and it was like going back in time. I mean, it was just so regal and so, decadent in a good way. It was just, it was just classic, timeless. And I would go in, and these musicians would be, in their tuxedos, and it was spectacular. And I said, and at the time, believe it or not, nobody else was doing that. I mean, I could count them on my hand. In New York City, there was just a handful of places that were playing jazz that weren't a designated jazz club, something that you would pay a cover for and go in. And
Same here.
And I thought, yeah. And I said, why don't I do this? I mean, if I enjoy this, there's got to be a market. I mean, my occupancy is less than 150 people. So I was like, there's got to be at least 150 people that's going to enjoy this. Fortunately,
you mentioned something a moment ago about the listening environment, and jazz has a history of jazz has many layers of history, and in different decades, you had times where the music was it was a party, like New Orleans music. It's just a party and everybody's dancing and drinking and eating and everything. Then you had, European jazz clubs in the 60s where it's more like sitting in church where you sit and you're very, very quiet. And so there's not really one right or wrong answer, but I'd love to hear your take on the listening room environment, because the jazz purists will just, they'll skewer us day after day for creating an environment where you don't have to be quiet. But what brought you to that point?
So that's it's an interesting thing, and we have been skewered many times, especially in the beginning.
Literally,
because literally, it was God bless you, Yelp. It's something that when I first opened, I didn't know so much about jazz, and I still don't. I love jazz, but I'm not I don't know it like you know it. But I knew what I wanted, and I wanted an environment that wasn't a listening room, that wasn't a place that again, back to my previous statement, I wanted a place that people could go, hang out. People, as they age, they don't go out as much, and when they do go out, they want to catch up with their friends. So I wanted a place that two couples could go out, they could listen to the music, but they could still also have a conversation. And jazz clubs, as you know, it's taboo. You just can't do that. I mean, you'll get shushed out of the room. So there was a massive learning curve for me. And the first thing I needed to do was manage people's expectations. So we said, we started making not disclaimers, but we started saying, like, listen, we're not a listening room. There's never a cover charge. You come in, you enjoy the music. We keep the music at a level that allows for other conversations. We love our musicians. We appreciate what they do on stage. It's a vital part of our environment, but the musicians get it too. And I think that was a really key point, is communicating what we were creating to the musicians, so they had an understanding. And once you explained what we were doing, then they were like, fine, we get it, we totally get it. And now we have the musicians we've had them, we keep them in rotation, but we have great relationships with our musicians. But it's important that you communicate the type of environment that you're looking to create. We didn't want an environment that that they were gonna pass around change buckets or sell CDs on stage, because that's not the environment we wanted. And there's a place for that, but not at our place.
Tommy, I want to introduce you to Jonathan in just a second, because you guys have never met. And Jonathan had so many ideas when we went into the Flatiron Room. But we're speaking of Flatiron Room, and if you're just joining us, I'm with Tommy Tardie from New York City. Has two beautiful clubs called the Flatiron Room and Fine and Rare. And we've got the flatironroom.com, so you can go check it out next time you're in New York City, whenever that's going to be. Tommy, I'm sure you're going to be open by then. I want to introduce you to Jonathan. Jonathan, Tommy, Jonathan. Bring him on, Chris.
Hey, Tommy.
Jonathan, an architect and a singer. Gotta love it.
Sir.
Left brain and right brain. Love it.
Jonathan, I want to hear from you real quick. What's the thing that most stood out to you about the Flatiron Room when we went there 7 years ago?
I think the thing that stood out to me the most was the way that you guys balanced the stage and the bar. It was real obvious that it was, you found a really nice balance there. We were struggling with having the confidence to design the bar and the stage the way that we did at Jazz Texas, and visiting at the Flatiron Room really gave us the confidence to do what we did. We divided the focal point of the room. There's a stage as a focal point, and also the bar as a focal point. But I have a quick question for you, if I could. Sure. One of the things, we did so much research and spent so much time going to places like yours, and this place just kind of hit on all pistons. It came off firing. And so there's not really that much we would change. And the Flatiron Room kind of seems that way to me too. But I just wonder, I mean, how did that room work? Did you all have to make adjustments to the way the room was laid out, or were there things you'd change now in hindsight?
So interesting, and I'm sure, Doc, you can relate to this. Usually with starting a business, one of the things that is key is knowing when to be flexible and knowing when something's not working. As an entrepreneur, you got to stick to your guns, and then at the same time, you also have to be willing to change. I did a business plan prior to opening, outlining everything of, how I envisioned it and how it was going to work and stuff. And I've had different businesses. I mentioned the clubs before, and I've always had to change. I've always had to adapt to what the customers actually want. And in this case, to be honest, it was spot on. I didn't have to change anything. I got lucky. It was like, yeah, surprisingly, like it was. I just, it was a success right away, and it just kept going. And
It's
I
like,
just,
when George Costanza finally tells a funny joke, he's like, "I'm out."
yeah, right,
It's
right,
like,
right.
I got it. I finally got it. I'm out. Good night.
Yeah. But I doubled down. I was like, you know what, we're doing good, so
Yeah.
let's do another.
Both.
And the other one, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. You go ahead.
Yeah, so that one we've been there for like 8 years now, and I just we had more demand than we did supply, and I said, if we're recommending other places on a regular basis for our customers to go to because they can't get access to the Flatiron Room, then let's build another place. And we have our beta test. We have Flatiron Room as a beta test. So this was our moment to be like, okay, how do we improve on the mousetrap? How do we make a better mousetrap? And to be honest, we used all the things that we knew that was working at the Flatiron. We carried it over to Fine and Rare, and so far so good. Well, so far it's been great until.
Way to stay positive, Tommy.
Yeah, way to stay positive.
Yeah,
Got it, man.
What else? What other choice do we have but to stay positive and to think about the long term?
Positive, man.
And you have two beautiful places, my friend, and I can't wait to come back and visit them both. And Tommy, thank you so much for coming on the show. We check out the Flatiron Room, check out Fine and Rare when you go to New York City. And I know many of our listeners, many of our watchers, our viewers will be in New York. And hang in there, stay positive, get open safely but soon. And we hope to see you, Tommy. Thank you so much.
Yeah, keep making your magic, Jonathan. Look forward to meeting you too.
Likewise.
Tommy, thank you so much, my friend. We'll see you soon.
All right, guys. All right, take care.
Tommy Tardie, Jonathan Card, everybody. Thank you so much, Tommy. We'll see you soon. We have another new song that we just wrote a couple days ago for y'all. This one is also untitled, but it's a nice little lullaby, and we hope you enjoyed this one. Here goes. Thank you very much, everybody. And now for something completely different. We know many of you are watching from home, stuck at home, trying to find fun stuff to do to keep you occupied during these times. Many of you have said you're playing board games and other exciting activities, and so we decided to come up with our own board game here at Jazz Texas that you can play along with right at home. So, without further ado, let's play the board game. Now, you probably already know how the board game works. We pick two boring people and or animals, we compare them, and then I get to decide who bores me the most. So, let's play. Tonight on the board game, who's more boring, a mountain goat or Mark Wahlberg? Well, on the one hand, a mountain goat is a species of goats that live in North America on high elevations. The mother goat is called a nanny, the male mountain goat is called a billy, and the baby is called a kid. The mountain goat's diet includes grain, alfalfa, fruits and vegetables, which basically means vegans. So vegans and mountain goats have a lot in common. They're both pretty boring. In the wild, mountain goats usually live 12 to 15 years, depending, with their lifespans limited by the wearing down of their teeth. Sadly, no mountain goat is currently eligible for dental care. Not very riveting. On the other hand, Mark Wahlberg is an actor, producer, and former singer. He was born with a third nipple. That's for those of you who care to keep abreast of his life. Mark Wahlberg was arrested over 20 times, and he dropped out of high school at age 14, which makes him perfectly qualified to be admitted to USC. In 1992, when he was known as Marky Mark, Rolling Stone magazine voted Wahlberg the worst male singer of the year. So apparently it's not only his acting career that's considered the worst. It's a tough call, honestly, but if you had to pick who bores you the most, Mark Wahlberg or Mountain Goat, the correct answer is Mark Wahlberg. And thanks for playing the board game. All right, we're going to bring up our special guest to sing another song for you all, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a special request for Liz. This is a tune called Route 66. It's one of our favorite blues tunes. So Liz, thanks for the request. And please welcome back to the stage, ladies and gentlemen, Jonathan Card. You ready?
Let's do it.
Let's swing out. 1, 2, 3, 4.
If you ever plan to motor west, travel my way, take the highway, that's the best. Get your kicks on Route 66. Well, it winds from Chicago to LA, more than 2,000 miles all along the way. Get your kicks on Route 66. Well, you go through St. Louis, Joplin, Missouri, Oklahoma City, look mighty pretty. You'll see Amarillo, Gallup, New Mexico, Flagstaff, Arizona, don't forget Winona, Kingman, Barstow, San Bernardino. If you get hip to my motor tip, when you take that California trip, come on, come on, come on and get your kicks on Route 66, 66. Mike Porter on the bass. Susan Louie, Joplin, Missouri, Oklahoma City looks so, so pretty, you'll see. Amarillo, Gallup, New Mexico, Flagstaff, Arizona, don't forget Winona, Kingman, Busto, San Bernardino. If you get hip to my motor tip, when you take that California trip, get your kicks on Route 66. Get your kicks on Route 66. Get your kicks on Route 66.
That's Jonathan Card on the microphone once again. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for being on the show, Jonathan.
It's great to be down here, brother.
Okay. We'll see you at the after party, all right?
Yes, sir. I'll be here.
All right, we got time to do just one more tune for y'all before it's time to say good evening. We want to say thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Give a big shout out to our main man on the cameras, Chris Zients.
Science!
With Wizard Broadcasting. Look him up. All right, we want to thank you so much for tuning in. We've got another great show ahead for you Friday night, live streaming at 8 o'clock. We're live here at Jazz Texas every Tuesday and Friday for the time being. Until further notice, we're going to close out with a special request. This one goes out to Bill. It's a tune called Moanin' by Bobby Timmons from Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers. And we played it last week, but we've got Brandon here on the drums, so we're going to swing out, have a good time for you, Bill. So thanks so much for tuning in, y'all. We'll see you next time. That's Brandon Guerra on the drums, Mike Porter on the bass. My name's Doc Watkins. Thank you so much for tuning in to episode 10 of the Doc Watkins Show. We'll see you next time, Friday night at 8 p.m. Texas time. Thank you very much. Good night, y'all.